You're listening to Sweet Bites with Sandra with your host, Sandra Colton-Medici. Tune in every Thursday to satisfy your entrepreneurial sweet tooth. Follow on Instagram at Sweet Bites with Sandra Podcast and Sandra Colton-Medici. You can also join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Sweet Bites with Sandra. Hi, I'm Sandra, and I'd like to invite you to subscribe and listen to my new podcast, Sweet Bites with Sandra. Satisfy your entrepreneurial sweet tooth in each episode, full of digital business tips, inspiring interviews, asides from my entertainment career, and rewards to celebrate your sweet success. Find Sweet Bites with Sandra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thank you so much for joining us on Sweet Bites with Sandra. Welcome to the program. I love meeting new people, and I want to introduce you to Nadya Okamoto. She is a student and entrepreneur, a seasoned speaker globally, and she is the author of Period Power, a manifesto for the menstrual movement, and founder, because that's not all, founder of period.org. And it's August. So welcome to the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Well, so I want to talk about just getting it done at 16, because you started this thing off like when people are kind of just, just going to school. So what was your inspiration, your mission? Like what started it off?
I would say that for me, I never thought I would be like a period passionate person, but I think for me, it was just the first thing that I became extremely obsessed with and passionate about, right? I
Mhm.
learned about period poverty from talking to homeless women that I was meeting to and from school, and kind of stumbled across the topic as we are talking about like overall life challenges. Had never really thought about it before, and it gave me this sort of privilege check that I think I needed, that was like, oh wow, I've never had to use trash to take care of my periods. Why do these people have to use trash to take care of their periods? And then kind of spiraled into Googling and learning more and more about inequities around period care, whether it be the tampon tax existing, or whether it be it being a leading cause of absenteeism for girls in school globally. And
Mhm.
I think that for me, the impetus was really just like, honestly, like frustration, like how the is this still an issue? And like, how do we do something about this, right? And I think that that really was what pushed me to want to do something.
So you're balancing things. So we talk about business people, entrepreneurs, what a work-life balance looks like. And obviously as a student and a business person and I would say a public figure, how do you do all that?
Well, it's sacrifices, right? Like, I think I don't have a family, like I don't have kids to take care of, and like I don't really have a social life. Like, I I'll start by saying, like, I am not a good example of harmony or balance or whatever. And a lot of that is because I think that a lot of my mental health pushes me to like want to do as much as possible, right? So like for me, I've never had one company. Like, I've done like, balancing speaking tour and writing, and then my nonprofit, and then a consulting company, and now I'm doing like writing and speaking and then consulting and then this, so I would say that for me, I just everyone makes decisions about how they spend their time,
Mhm.
and in quarantine, like, I don't really go out. I'm a lot more introverted than people think I am. And so for me, like, work life balance, if we call it that, is like, I want to sleep an adequate amount, and I want to spend time with the people that I love, and I want to work out once a day, and I want to make time for like therapy and things like that. And For me, work is so much fun, and work is so social that like that just it doesn't feel like work a lot of the time.
Right. Well, I know that with It's August, it's a community of sorts, right? So you are building
Exactly.
community. So you are surrounded by, whether it's via Zoom right now, but surrounded by people, new and different people who are, spreading the message that obviously we all need to hear right now. And really, how I know that in your book you talk about like how have we not fixed this? So what are some things that are tangible that we can do to solve this problem?
I mean, I would say first and foremost, it's like talk about it, right? I think the reason, not the only reason, but like a core part of why period poverty exists and why it still is maintained is the stigma around periods, right? The stigma that says like period products aren't necessities, menstruation is not something that should be talked about. It's completely taboo. By the way, the word taboo comes from the Polynesian root tapua, which means menstruation. So, all of
Ah,
these things that I think the first thing that we can do is like change culture around it. And that starts with conversations talking about periods. Then it's like talking about period poverty and mobilizing around it, whether that be, okay, I'm going to go now do legislative advocacy to take down the tampon tax, get free period products in school shelters and prisons, to, buy from brands that support a lot of that impact, to, collect period products and donate them to a local shelter. I think there are so many ways that you can mobilize around it. And I think that it really starts with that awareness component and like breaking down that stigma both with internally in ourselves and in the communities that we live in.
right. Well, obviously, I would just want to thank you for doing what you do because, I haven't necessarily put myself out there to do that advocacy, but I definitely think a lot of people need to insert themselves into that space because I deal with it every month. You know what I mean? So it is part of my life too, and so many others. So when you think about the next, I know that we were talking before we came on about what's happening with It's August coming in, I think March, you said?
Yeah. So I mean, working on closing seed round right now, really focused on community, and we're not set on dates or anything, but
Mhm.
we are excited to launch product this spring. And so definitely stay tuned for that. We're super excited for it. And I don't know, I think that also just excited to push the whole space to, be better, whether it be around sustainability, around being period positive and inclusive. So I'm really excited.
Well, that has to be exciting. I know that just moving yourself into another lane, obviously, I don't know when you're going to sleep because I know you said you want to sleep, but I don't know when that's going to happen because you are so busy. So, what is something I saw that you were in a campaign for, I think it was L'Oreal, and then also with like Pharrell and, for sports brands. So, how does that other side? I mean, it's kind of like a glamorous, I think
My
there was a
influencer side.
right? Is that fun for you, or is that just, are you using that to bring awareness, or where do you see that fitting into what you do overall?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? So the Adidas for All campaign, like I got to hold a tampon that said tax free, right? And that
Mhm,
became one of the global pictures distributed. And for me, that's a huge deal because so much of my mission to change culture is like the places with platforms and decision making power and sway and resources need to talk about period poverty, right?
mhm,
And that I had not seen that from like that size of a brand that
mhm,
wasn't in the period space. And so for me it's that, but also yeah, it's really fun, right? Like I love that part of my job is
mhm,
playing dress up, and I think that I grew up being a dancer, and so for me that sort of performance aspect, it like
mhm,
feels very natural to me. And I talk about this quite a bit, but like for me, I people think I'm a lot extroverted than I am, right?
mhm,
Because I get on these stages, I love talking to a lot of people. I have no stage fright when it comes to speaking, when it comes to doing modeling, like no stage fright. But for me, it really is like kind of how I thought about dance. Like I didn't
mhm,
have stage fright about that, but I do have stage fright about having conversations with like peers. Like my biggest nightmare is like mingling. Like the idea, like for me, like if my friends know that if they're like, oh, you should come to this party with me, like we don't really know anyone there, but like we're just gonna talk. It's like a chill hangout. To me, that is like a nightmare. Like I could never like so for
yeah,
me, I actually have a lot more social anxiety, and
mhm,
for me, different things come naturally to different people. For me, like that performance angle I think is very much embedded into me from being a dancer growing up and all of that. So that is honestly where I feel most at home. So it's
Mhm.
actually been really hard to be in quarantine because I don't get to do that as much. And I think if anything, I craved it so much that I almost burnt myself out by being on a plane once or twice a day speaking, right? Like red eyes 3 to 4 times in a row
Oh my
sometimes,
gosh.
just because I loved that, because when I'm on stage, it's one of the most peaceful, relaxing things for me, because I don't really write my speeches down ever. I just kind of talk from the heart. And
Oh
I think
my.
for me, like when I'm on stage, like I have to force myself to be wholly present.
Mhm.
And because of my PTSD or my borderline personality disorder, a lot of it is that I struggle with that feeling of being present unless I'm
Mhm.
like in that scenario, right? So for me, quarantine has been really grappling with not having that outlet anymore.
When you want people to find what you're doing, where should we send them to?
I'm on social media at my name, at Nadya Okamoto, and my work is at It's August on Instagram, and It's August Co everywhere else. So definitely check that out. My book is Period Power. You can always DM me. I try to be highly accessible, especially for people who just want to get involved or anything like
Mhm.
that. Yeah, so reach out whenever.
Definitely. And one last question is, what are you using? Because I always ask everybody, what are you using on a daily basis that you cannot live without? It could be software, it could be an app, it could be some sort of secret sauce that you use when you're cooking. What do you use every day?
A mix of Monday and Notion. Monday is a task manager. Notion is sort of a note-taking system. I've tried every different fucking tech platform out there, like Asana, all that stuff. To me, Monday and Notion and the mixture of that. My co-founder Nick, he really built a system that like I really love. And then also, I go everywhere with my water bottle, and for me, like water
Yeah.
is. I feel like I'm chronically dehydrated,
Mm.
so having water is like really important.
And you're graduating soon?
Yes, I just started my last semester at Harvard.
Well, at least we're all somewhat in school. So I
Yeah,
wish you all the best in your
thank you.
graduation. And I'm sure there's another book somewhere in there. And of course, stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.